Hello. I had thought about last week doing a video about something that I hadn't thought of doing. I developed my makeup and my look, and I hadn't thought about my personality as Samantha. So I wanted to share with you the inspirations, the kind of persona that I would like to express as Samantha. I've already mentioned my mermaid interest, and I'd like to share with you the women that I have thought were very attractive, and the personality traits that I think I have, and the personality traits that I think would make me more feminine. Um, First of all, I think I have great poise when I'm talking with people, and that comes across as very feminine. Um, I think I listen. I'm a good listener, and I I think I have some of the mannerisms that goes with femininity. Now on to the inspirations. When I was thinking about this, I thought of some of the women that were classmates in school, and the women that I saw on television that I thought were very feminine, and some role models, kind of. Um, First of all, might take my name from Samantha Stevens. She was in a character in the TV series Bewitched. And excuse me, my phone is ringing. Samantha Stevens was a very intelligent woman, and very very genuine, very warm, and very clever and very kind. And that's why I chose to name my own character after her. Um, Now let's get on to mermaids. I've always had a fascination for mermaids, and I'm pleased that I've gotten a lot of compliments on this hair, um, blonde hair. Um, I I guess, what do I think of when I think of mermaids? I think of their beauty. I think of I think of the swimming. I think of like something enchanting about them, and I guess I have to work on that. But I like to develop the mermaid look. There was a girl in high school where I went to school, and she had nice matted hair that reminded me of a mermaid. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but she had beautiful blonde hair, and I guess I'll work on that look. Now, moving on, there was another girl in high school that was kind of a flirt, and I see myself as my Samantha persona. I'd like to be kind of a flirt, kind of someone that you would like to feel happy around, and very bubbly, and excuse me, the camera jerked, very bubbly, and something full of life, and I guess more of a flirt. Um, Let me see. And there's a supervisor at work who is very feminine in her own way. She, let me see if I can describe it. She comes across more dainty, but I don't want to be too dainty, because I it may come across as I'm faking it. But I just like the more dainty, what I see as more feminine. And there's another girl that I've met, I've become kind of closer to as a friend, we went to high school together, and we went to middle school together. Um, and she says stuff like hun and honey, and makes you feel very warm and friendly. I don't want to go into too much more because that might give her identity away. Away. Excuse me, I've got to work on my my breath control. I hope my voice is pretty good. I've been practicing since then. But of course, it might be better when I'm off camera than when I'm on. So hopefully this is working out. But she makes me feel warm, and I like when women say no, honey, or dear, or something endearing. So I like to incorporate that in how I talk as Samantha. And I think that about does it for my persona, what I want to develop it into. Now I want to take it in a different direction, this video. Valentine's Day had come and gone this past week, and I had been thinking of someone. I had been thinking on and on about over the past lots of years, I had been thinking about this person, and I don't want to give away her name, and I hope I don't give away too much more. I mean, part of me dressing up like this is kind of to show her that I do have skill, and I'm taking this very importantly, because right now, when I think of her, I think of her being angry with me. And it's something that perhaps we may never resolve, and it's very sad. So given that this is my YouTube channel, it's all about thinking of ideas, thinking of songs. For example, you may see my earlier videos wherein I talk about the topics in my personal life that I'd like to write some music about, and hopefully perform when my voice is better. And so I thought about doing this video talking about her. I'll name her Becky, just to get it out. I thought about this. I thought about naming this as kind of in the the therapist patient chair, but maybe that's a little strong. I don't know how to phrase it, but maybe talking about not just her, but talking about the different things I've had in my life, different experiences, and generally my life. And maybe later I can draw from that for more music. I don't know how to make this without, I don't know what direction I'll go in. One direction, I guess, is not to distract myself by looking into the camera. So I'll think back to that Wednesday, Valentine's Day. Let me start off by describing that Valentine's Day morning. I came into work and I sat down. I was really feeling pretty good, and I took a call. The computer was not working the way working its best, and then somebody brought in flowers for a coworker, and from that point on, I felt really bummed. I felt lonely, and I thought about this person I'm naming Becky. And I've been debating and debating, should I make this video? I think I can talk about it kind of as a catharsis, to be able to get it out. I think of her as scolding me, as yelling at me, as her text messages about a year ago really still stung. They stung then, and they're still stinging. And I guess I have after effects from it. I hope she still doesn't hate me. And if nobody else is really paying attention to this video, um, I I guess it's a catharsis for me. Um, I'll tell you what I would like to say to her. Um, I know our 30th anniversary, our 30th high school reunion is coming up, and Becky probably won't be there. Um, but I've said this before. Every time I try to, um, I try to be friends. Like I try to every time. That's not true. Every time, because we have been friends periodically, and like on a talking basis. Um, I just, why do I, why do I feel like I need her support? I don't know. She just, I guess, I guess partly because, partly I feel dismayed, and it's something unresolved. I don't like things unresolved in my life. Um, and 30 years ago, I'm going to, excuse me, I'm going to be jumping around quite a bit. 30 years ago, we were in high school, and I, I gave her gifts. I tried to impress her. I was very creative. I would draw things and write poetry, and she seemed to like it. And from what I understand now, I guess she liked it. She liked it, and um, she appreciated it. We talked at one time over the phone. She said that and I don't want to be somebody to give away secrets. You know, I know things about her that I don't want to betray her trust. Um, but anyway, she she talked in that second phone call, um, saying that she's scared that she just wants to be friends, and I was okay with that. Um, and 30 years later, we were on and off like on MySpace and Facebook. We were friends, like Facebook friends, and um, and then I want to talk about this April, and then this past April, um, she she the April before this past April, she's coming up on another year. I guess almost 2 years ago now. Um, on a whim, I looked at um, lolcows. These are people who aren't self-aware, and they embarrass themselves, uh, um, and they provide so much unawareness that's very funny, and people laugh at it. I guess they're the internet's clowns, right? Um, but there's a sad case of one who, um, Chris Chan, who wanted to, who started off wanting a girlfriend, and I felt really sad about how his life had become, how people online had twisted it around. Um, and so I remember it was late at night, and I would be at work the next morning, and excuse me, I'm trying to improve my voice here. Um, and I just texted her, and I said, it's very true. I just said, I'm sorry if I had said anything or if I had done anything. Um, And I don't remember if I even said anything else. And she texted back and she said, we can, in so many words, look, if you want to talk, we can talk. And is the catharsis for me. Um, we talked, and it was very different from the other friendship conversations we've had, like the other times, like on Facebook. We didn't really talk on the phone in the past 30 years. It was just texting, like email and so forth. So anyway, so she she said she opened up about a few things, um, and I opened up to her about this. I guess I must have, yeah, I must have started doing this. Excuse me. I must have started. Yeah, I know. I had started doing this before, and I wanted to open up to her. I wanted to genuinely share nice things and creative things, things I was really proud of, and um, it takes a lot of courage to come out like this, even to somebody like a classmate. And she said something, one of the most wonderful things she said, in so many words. All this is basically paraphrasing, so I guess I'm assume that everything is in so many words. Okay, um, she she said, I won't give away what her background is, but she said she was in an industry that where there are lots of people like this, and it's okay. Um, and I felt very relieved, and I'm very proud. And we talked, and she said a little bit. I'm convinced that there was a lot more she could have said, um, but she said that um, there were things that I had done. I know, I mean, there are things that I came on too strongly. Um, well, it started off, I guess, let's go back to that period in high school. I was giving her poetry. Um, I wanted a girlfriend, but I also wanted a friend. I wanted to open up to her. Um, and she represented, here's something, she represented, um, on the one hand, the a kind of the in group, one of the popular girls, and on the other hand, that's what I expected. But there were little moments in my life before that that we would, one day I got off the bus and she didn't. I don't think she didn't. She wasn't usually on the bus, but we just. I got off the bus and excuse me. I wanted to make this kind of a revealing video, to finally have it out. And this would be, I've talked about it before. I've talked about her before. And I have this image of her really hating me. Um, this time, it was about midway through middle school. Um, and I got off the bus and she walked with me. And she treated me like, she talked with me like she was a friend. And um, I remember way back in the end of the last years of elementary school, I see I moved, um, and something that she reminded me of, um, when when we were talking on the phone, she said that she moved in fourth grade, just like I did, and um, I wish I could remember those days because sometimes, especially during college, I thought I'd never see her again. Then I thought she really hated me and she was scared of me. And I didn't know why. So anyway, she, we, there was a moment, there was another moment also in high school when I, I went to a fast food restaurant with my mom and I saw her there. I probably knew that she worked there, and she was sitting alone. And I went over to her and I sat down. And I don't remember what I said, but maybe I didn't say anything. I probably said something, but I said something friendly, like conversational, and um, I don't remember her saying very much. I think she was kind of bored or not really interested. That's how I remembered it, at least. Um, and the other thoughts aren't really coming to mind. I remembered her as a cheerleader, as um, I don't know. Maybe we didn't. I remember her in a club, a local club that we had. I don't want to give out too much, but it was the same industry that she said in that phone call that um, she was a part of that had people like me. And she, so all her life, she wanted to be in this industry, and she couldn't for whatever reason. And I didn't really probe. I mean, I could make some guesses, of course, and there are probably many reasons why. Um, but back then, um, I lost my train of thought. Um, all right, so so growing up, she always seemed like somebody. I guess more in middle school. I remember in middle school one time in social studies class, I sat next to her in the front row, and we didn't really talk a lot. I remember, I remember we had a penny. We had a project where we were supposed to play archaeologist, and we would need to come up with all these different things we could deduce from this penny about the civilization that created it. And I remember she was in my group, and that would have been seventh grade. And I think I wanted to impress her. Then I remember we were also reading Tom Sawyer, and I, she asked me what had happened in the prior chapter, and I wanted to impress her, so I said something about him seeming like Dennis the Menace, and she didn't seem to need to know that. She just needed to know the what happened in the yesterday's reading that was assigned to be discussed later in the day, and I felt like such a goof. I wanted to impress her very much. Um, and of course, there were other women too. I mean, there was that flirt that I mentioned, um, and she would tuck her foot under the desk, and she would kind of move her foot up and down my leg. She would ask me questions about my personal life, and she'd ask me about she knew that I was a good artist, and she would ask me to draw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I liked the attention first of all, and I liked it anytime when I got attention because, and this ties in with Becky, um, I liked the attention because I didn't feel like I fit in with anybody. Now I had pride in myself, but in school, sometimes they would make fun of me. A lot of times they would make fun of me. It it seemed to become worse in high school, but if you asked me in middle school, I would say that I got picked on. I probably got picked on in elementary school. Let's not hold punches, hold back punches, okay? And I can't think of a moment when she stood up for me. Um, particularly a moment, but she probably did. I think it's a matter of me knowing her in this this local village um, group outside of school, um, and she just seemed to be around sometimes. Um, so with all that, I knew it was getting to be the end of high school. It was the second semester, and Valentine's Day was coming up. So I wrote this poem. I've said this a lot of times, um, but I wrote this poem. It was a long poem, and I was proud of it. I had been inspired by the Jim Bohannon radio show. Um, so there was somebody coming on. The guest he had on had written a book about. Her name is Janet O'Neill. Um, she had written a book about how to find your significant other or how to date more. And with Valentine's Day coming up, see that was a Thursday or Friday, I think. I think I mistook it. I think I brought the poem in on a Friday, and Valentine's Day wasn't until a Monday. But I just wanted to impress somebody. I wanted to have it on hand. So I came in. I I almost gave it to one other girl. Short. I guess I'm attracted to short short women, very tall women and very short women, um, and very flirty women. um, so I almost gave it to her, um, but I held out, and she was in our homeroom, and I remember I had gym or study hall first period, and so second period, I came in, and Becky was sitting in the front row, and when I saw her, um, I knew she was the one to give this poem to, and so I gave it to her, and I don't need to go into detail. I remember waiting, like, that was February, mid-February, and then in March, I was still waiting for her response. And if you're watching, this is my one chance maybe to say that um, somebody very creative um, wants feedback, and it I was very eager. I didn't know that anything. I didn't know what was going on behind the scenes. I just thought back through these movies that I had seen, and I just thought like Star Trek, like the world of Star Trek, like people mean well, and they, it was a constructive gesture, like I just wanted her to feel happy, and maybe she would say, I expected her to say, "Oh, that's a lovely poem." Maybe like, "I'm going out with somebody right now, but I really appreciate it." But I went through a month without knowing anything, and so I think I gave her more poetry. I think um, maybe it was that time. I might have um, called. No, I didn't call. I don't think I called. I think I just started writing more poetry, and she seemed to like smile, and she seemed friendly, and um, then I want this video to be my final essay about this experience, because I don't want to be a burden on her. Um, I over time, she seemed to like them, and so finally I would call sometimes. This is it. This is it. Okay. So I would call periodically, like maybe in the afternoon. I don't remember when I called, but like fluctuating different times. I was trying to be polite. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm very polite. I'm very understanding, and I would ask, is she there? And I was very naive at the time. Sometimes I think they said, no, she's not here right now. Maybe could I take a message or something like that? So finally, in April, I think it was April, um, it was on a Saturday, and I finally reached her by phone, and we talked, and I was very happy to finally be able to talk with her. There was it meant a lot to me to break the ice, because um, I didn't talk very. I had one close friend in school through those years. Now, outside of school, of course, I played. We hung out together, uh, and there was another kid, neighborhood kid, and sometimes I play with him. It's amazing, right? Really, how much you can accomplish when you're that young. You have school. Yeah, well, and I. But the kids in school, I never found anything in common with them. But this is senior year, and I wanted to change, break the ice. And I was so happy to have broken the ice. And I admit my um, my expectations got the better of me, and in my own fantasy, um, I thought about us dating, and when you're young, like I was 18. I was actually that's not true. I think I was 17 or 18. No, I would have been 17. Um, and I I thought of us dating and maybe getting married. I was in love with the idea of having a girlfriend, and there were some things that she opened up to, not very much, but there were things that I remembered um, about her that I thought at the time um, was was a nice match for me, and so that was Saturday, and then on Sunday, um, she wasn't very happy. I wanted to cheer her up, and she said that I did. Um, so I was very happy just to be able to cheer her up. I didn't know why she was sad. I didn't even ask. Um, Now, this is in some sense a confession too. Um, at the time, I didn't know whether when I would call and try to reach her, I didn't know when I'd be able to actually talk with her, and it'd be so infrequent. I just wanted something to preserve our conversation, that I did take a recording of an audio recording of Encounter at Farpoint, which is the first episode of my favorite TV show, Star Trek: The Next Generation. And it had in the background my mom yelling at the neighbors to be quiet. I should say that I think my mom, now in these past few years, I've come to realize that my mom was probably suffering from schizoaffective disorder. That's my diagnosis for it. Um, she would hear voices, disturbing voices that she would attribute to the neighbors, and um, it we were very close. My mom and I were very, very close, and um, sometimes she would say the neighbors are listening. She would when we're I would be in the other room, or perhaps we were talking together, and she would stop and she would say, "Cut it out, creep! Cut it out, you murderer! Um, Shut up, creep!" And over several years of this, um, going outside, walking out in the middle of the night, sometimes freezing cold weather, into the park just so we can talk in privacy, because she believed that they were listening in to all of our conversations. And um, I thought that, I wrote one. I wrote in a note in one of my letters to Becky, that I hope that the reason she's not talking with me more is that the neighbors have told her not to talk with us, talk with me. I hoped, as a 17-year-old, these are thoughts that go through your mind, and um, I so I took that recording of the premiere broadcast of Encounter at Farpoint, Star Trek: The Next Generation, and I, with her shouting at the neighbors, be quiet. Since then, I acquired it on video cassette, so I wasn't so bothered by recording over that. So anyway, I recorded on one side. I recorded the Saturday phone call, and then on Sunday I recorded um, on the other side, and I just wanted something to preserve it by. Like, I didn't want any ill will. I didn't intend any ill will. I just wanted something for myself, to remember her, um, because it was lonely, and I I wanted that fulfilled. I wanted that conversation, and this is something that perhaps could fill up. If I felt that desire to talk with her, I could just play the tape. And so apparently she didn't know that I was recording it. Um, and so I mentioned I was looking forward to, the swimming contest in school, and appearing on this radio show because I was getting my Eagle Scout award, and it's a very big thing. It's a culmination of a career in the Boy Scouts, and I was all excited. And the final episode of Next Generation was airing soon, and great things were happening, and I saw this as one of those great things, being able to talk with a girl, so she wouldn't be laughing at me or mocking me. I remember in seventh grade, Batman was going to premiere that summer, and this is probably May, because Batman had already been released, and um, I I remember this girl in chorus. Um, I remember these two girls who said that they were friends of hers, and they said they were speaking for her, and they said that she would like me to ask her out and go to a movie, and they suggested Batman because they said that it was her favorite movie, and I remember I I just felt obligated as a man to to pay for both of our meals. And I remember growing up, my hygiene, for one, could be better. Um, and I didn't fit in. I felt, and with the stuff that they were talking about, I felt like I wasn't really interested in that stuff. Um, there was a lot of gossip. There was a lot of people. There were a lot of people just smoking, or just talking about very low level stuff. Whereas I felt I was up here, and in fact, I anticipated after college or even after high school that I would move to Los Angeles because I already had my career already in already thought about ever since elementary school. I enjoyed television very much. And that's when I discovered Star Trek and Bewitched. And I grew up on television. And I saw myself, I, I began I began in middle school and then in high school to write stories. And then in high school, I was already, get this, okay? I was already writing scripts to send in and try to impress these production companies. Like a fool, I guess I would write an episode of Night Court and then I would send it in to the producers of Night Court. And I think I wrote good stories. Um, I mean, they were amateurish by the standards, of course, I have now, but I think they were good. They didn't make the usual mistakes, like creating a whole new character and then sidestepping the main characters. I knew enough not to do that. Um, I wrote well for how old and how experienced I was at the time. So there was all that, and then there was her, and I wanted her to know that I wasn't this face that maybe people called, I don't know if they called nerd or what, but they made, called me names and the stuff. I wanted her to know me, myself. I wanted to open up, and I was very happy that I was able to do that. And and then I but when I now that was already May, so and I think it was towards late May. I remember it was something like May 27th, something like it was. Oh no, sorry, no, it was April. I think it was April. Um, and so, or was it May 5th? Something. Okay, so I remember there was a 94 days till graduation breakfast for anybody who wanted to go in. Um, oh, that happened before, because that was the first time. See, all right, let me backtrack a little bit. So I'd given her this poem. I hadn't given her anything else. That was around mid-February, Valentine's Day. And soon afterwards was the 94 days till graduation breakfast. Wasn't mandatory, but for anybody who wanted to come in early before school. And I did that. I wouldn't have done that before, but I wanted to break the ice, like I was saying. And I sat down and with two girls, and I talked about my hopes, my career plans. I sort of wanted to impress them too, but they were serious. They were serious career plans. I wanted to go in. I wanted to run for president someday, and then while we were talking, um, Becky comes along, and I think she had a water bottle, um, and she says hi, Samantha, and she used my male name, and hi, and they chatted for a bit, and then she walked away, and so um, I talked with the two girls, and they knew her. In fact, one of them said that she had heard. I guess she wasn't there. Either she heard about the poem, or she was there when, or like Becky showed her the poem. Um, but I think think this girl said that she really liked it, and it made me feel so gratified. And so anyway, so then I would call periodically to try to reach her, and I finally reached her this Saturday and Sunday, like I said, and um, then I don't remember much else. I would give her drawings and stuff I was really proud of, and poetry. That was the first time really that I had written poetry, um, and since then, really the only time, and that's why, partly why, I wanted to get into music, because maybe dressed like this, maybe I could practice with my voice. I realized that singers do it too. Singers use the same voice techniques, and so maybe I could go back to using those skills about poetry writing to write music and get a bigger crowd maybe. So, so I remember during that phone call, one of those two phone calls, I asked, "What color is your house?" And she said, "Oh, it's white." Um, and I said, sometimes I call and you're not there. I'm just very confused and puzzled. And so Becky said, "Well, a lot of times I'm out." But she also said, "I'm here. You can talk to me. You know my number, you know where I live." And that's a direct quote. Um, so I felt very relieved. I still felt confused that she seemed to be not there when I would call, but yet she seemed to be interested. And me being a naive 17-year-old, I took her at her word that she was, I guess, very busy. And I got off the phone anyway, um, still with the thought that I was going to be perhaps dating her, or at least our friendship could develop into something. Um, Not necessarily intimate. I just wanted to open up and be her friend. Um, I guess it's the closest I've thought of this a lot of times. I thought of that moment in Back to the Future with Lorraine and George, and the moment when George sticks up against the bully for Lorraine and protect her. And um, there's a beginning of a friendship, of a something. And that's the closest I've been able to think of. All these years, that's the closest I was able to think of um, to what I saw. I didn't necessarily want to date. I just wanted friendship, and I wanted to let her know that I'm not a geek or weirdo or just boring. There's a lot to me, and because I had seen her as very popular girl, and so it was my way of kind of getting into the popular group too, or at least befriending one of the popular girls too, or people too in general. And so I went over one night and with a letter, and I should mention actually that there was a prom coming up, and I wanted to ask her to the prom. She said she wasn't going, and so I went over later on the night of the prom. I went over anyway, and I met her brother, and this is something nice too. Um, so her brother was there. I think they had been drinking. He had been drinking with some friends of his, and so he invited me in, and he didn't say, you know, I feel when I meet a family member of a friend, I'm very courteous and I'm very respectful, and I don't want to, I don't want to go in anywhere I'm not welcome, or stay too long. But he invited me in, and there's also, that thing with guys where they they seem competitive. They could be competitive, and especially macho guys. I was never like that. I never liked that at all. And this, her brother took me in, took me around the house, and treated me like a decent human being. And so he said that she was at the prom. And even though that made me confused and feels dismayed, like I had wanted to make a dress for her, um, I said, thank you. And I walked. It's a long walk. It's like, for me, it was like half an hour. And I walked back. And so later on, I I wrote another letter. By this point I was writing conversational letters, and trying to be as funny as humorous as possible. And I walked over. It was late at night, and I guess I did. I wanted to knock on the door, and her father or somebody would come out, and I would give her the letter, and it didn't happen. And for whatever reason, the door was unlocked, and I went in, and I guess the thought that would have been through my mind at the time would have been trying to find her and give her the letter, because I had worked a lot on it. I guess I didn't work a lot on it. It just meant a lot to me. And so I I walked around, and I ran across her father, who chased me out. Um, I sort of remember a knife, I think. No, 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 no. I remember having the letter in my hand, and I ran down the stairs, and or wherever. It was a kitchen, and I threw the letter on the counter, and I ran out, and I felt awful, and I went home, and um, I remember this must have been after they aired the final episode of the Next Generation, which itself was about remembering the past 7 years, and particularly it's about two people who started at the beginning of this series, Deanna Troi and Will Riker, and they had dated previously to the series, and now they were just good friends, and they were kind of flirting with the idea of them getting back together sometimes. And then towards this final season, Deanna Troi then begins dating Worf. And so in this final episode, it's a time jump story, okay? Um, the lead character, the captain of the ship, experiences these time jumps, and at one moment he could be in the present, um, another moment he's in the past 7 years, just before the first episode began, when he took command of the ship, and then sometimes he jumps forward to 25 years in the future, and we learn in the future that this future anyway, that he had I think it was Irritmatics syndrome, some form of like some kind of Alzheimer's, where he's seeing things, he's hallucinating, or people who have it hallucinate and forgetful, and so forth. And so he finds out that we find out too that there's this being, this character that we've met in the past, who's come back and who, rather than, we find out at the end, he's been causing him to go through these periods in history, periods in time, and while he's going through these periods in time, we see that in the future, things aren't so good in some sense, and Deanna had died, and there's this rift between two close friends, Worf and Will Riker, in the future, and they just held that anger for 25 years, and or some length of time, and it just happens to be that this was the story that was told while I was going through this personal thing in my life. I remember that. So this being, this character, right? He's been sending the captain through these time periods, and at the end, he takes Picard back to the moment when the first, like DNA, the first particles would begin to coalesce that would later form life and ultimately humanity. And he reveals that it was through this time jumping that Picard would cause the end of humanity. That essentially humanity would not have existed because, and it's very vague really, why this happens. It just causes the particles to not coalesce, so therefore Earth doesn't have life, and consequently humanity doesn't begin. There is no humanity. And he actually does reveal one line. He reveals that there was an order from where the people where he came from to end humanity, and so he reveals that that was his order to end humanity, but he gave the captain an ability to be able to look beyond the concept of normal linear time. And like he said at the end of that episode, near the end of the episode, for one brief moment, you looked beyond, or you thought beyond, exploring stars and so forth. For one moment, your mind was open to the limitless. The way he phrases it was the limitless possibilities of existence, and there's something very beautiful about that. And so, I remember the rest of the crew learns what happens to them in the future. And I remember Riker looks to Worf and says, will we now know? And he looks at Worf and he says, so that some things never happen, meaning the rift that occurs between them after Troy, whom they both loved and wanted to date, wanted to, call their own. And so the final moment is the captain going into the poker room. They used during the series, they would talk about, they would show the characters sometimes playing poker, and Picard walks in and sits down, and he says he doesn't want to intrude, and he sits down and he thinks, and he says, I should have done this 7 years ago. And Troy says, this you were always welcome. And I think of that, I associate that with where I was at that time, where it was the end. I was getting my Eagle Scout rank, and I was appearing on radio and, in an interview. I mean, really, what else? How big could that really be? But it was big to this 17-year-old. And I also opened up to this girl that I had known since fourth grade. And it's funny, it was only a matter of how many years? Fourth grade, 8 years. Um, but, and I couldn't even remember um, how we met, or I could, outside of those experiences that I mentioned, I couldn't even really remember whether she was really, standing up for me all those years or not. I thought about it. I mean, I thought of her like that. But finally, I felt like I was really opening up to her, and I was showing somebody her, but I mean, I was showing somebody in general that there is more to me. That, the proverbial, kid being kicked and mocked and so forth. That I'm more than that, and I'm very worthwhile, and I'm creative, and I was so happy that I was able to share this creativity with her, and there was new creativity burgeoning, like with the poetry, and I would draw some things for her, and I was very relieved that rather than turn me aside or reject me or laugh at me, she really, um, she was happy, and she just accepted me as a person, and so she'll probably make fun of me dressed up like this. That's negative thinking. Um, I want this to be a final catharsis. For the sake of her, I don't want to keep talking about it. I don't want to keep dwelling on it. But it's just that this past for Valentine's Day, you can see how it gave me flashbacks. So um, I wanted to talk about it, and I thought, if I'm writing music, I could use this to be able to write songs, not using her name, but and like disguising it, but like drawing from real life experiences. And excuse me if my voice really was way off. Um, so I that's okay. So there was that Next Generation episode, and then after that was this awful experience that I regret. I've regretted ever since. Like the moment I walked, I left. I regretted it, and I walked home, and that summer, or no, that not that summer. That I felt miserable. I felt like my life had been over, and I remember taking the final exams, and I wanted to fail, really. I wanted to get a super low grade on the final exam, because maybe it would be a sign that I was really hurting inside. And um, I remember crying all through graduation ceremony. So I kind of feel robbed by that. Um, Maybe the reunion coming up will make up for it. Um, and I remember that summer. I remember one time I just stayed in bed, and I would play. I thought I had done something horrible. I thought I didn't deserve to live. And I would play that audio tape. Thank goodness, thank God, I recorded those two conversations, because I thought those would be the only times I would have left to hear her voice and to reminisce. And I got nostalgic, and I got very nostalgic. Um, I had to start college in the summer in August. This was 94, August 94, and it would be, and everybody had moved away, so um, I wouldn't even see them again. Um, and I remember at one point I took all these chemicals from the bathroom and I got this bottle and I poured just chemicals in general and I contemplated. I went to into my bed, I think, and I thought about just drinking it down and just killing myself and or just unlifing myself. And I kind of don't worry. I don't think anybody's really watching this. Um, if I can repost it, I guess to take that line out. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. I thought twice about it, and I decided not to do it. So you too, please remember. Keep in mind that I'm endorsing thinking twice and and living. But I told my mom, and without really saying anything, she just said something like, "Let's not do that." And so I was in college. I didn't know anybody. In fact, I wasn't even in school with people my own age. Um, I was in with adults, and it was periodic, like evening classes. I think it was adult education. I think, and um, and then in September, so forth, the regular college courses came in, and my mom said that if I had gotten a better grade, that I would not have had to take those summer courses. That's what she said. I don't know. But I felt very lonely. I still felt kind of like no one would talk with me. I reached out to friends, reached out to classmates, and some of them were friendly, some of them were nice. Um, and I remember, I won't go into it, but I remember another time when, fortunately, Becky did, um, Becky called me and she said that her father was sleeping or away. And this seemed like I got the gist anyway that this is the one time when she could talk with me. And she said that her father was very mad at me. I pissed off her dad very much. And that alone really made me feel very sad. And she asked me if she she asked me if I was like psychotic, and I said no. I was astonished that she would think that of me. Um, but she told me to get rid of the audio cassette. She said that I had gone into her house, and I don't know. It's very much not me. And she said that she didn't think that we should see each other anymore. Um, and it must have been about that time that I I asked maybe if I or maybe later if I could still send her letters, and she said yes. And I think it was regretful on her, like kind of okay, like kind of consenting to it. Um, but she sent me so she mentioned, where she would be possibly going. This must have been during the summer because she said she was either going to one college or another, um, and I had already begun um, school, so I said I'm going to SU, and that was a happier moment during the call. Um, and so it's nice that she it's nice that we sort of ended on friendly terms. I still felt very dismayed that she thought that like she was scared of me, and even she mentioned in that earlier phone call, the Saturday and Sunday phone call, she said that um, I think it was anyway like something to the effect that made me think that maybe I come on too strongly. Um, so I sent her some letters, and I tried to be very. I didn't try to send her a lot of letters. Like I would send her some letters when I felt I really needed to write to her, and it was very helpful that she let me do that, and I'm very thankful for her to let me be able to do that. Um, um, and something more recently, as I recall, um, I must have mentioned in those letters that I was either thinking of unlifing myself, or I was very sad, or I was very lonely, and so eventually, um, college graduation, and I go on with my life, and and then like about maybe 12, yeah, about 14 years ago, maybe a bit more, we were friends on MySpace, and she would say, little things like, she would say funny things back, and I remember she had games that she would play on Facebook and or MySpace, and I think one of them was the fish game, and she would make remarks about how I'm doing, and I would help her. I think I did, in fact, help her by feeding her fish when she wasn't there, and that was nice. And I remember a Memorial Day parade. I remember sometimes I would ask her, I remember one time I had written this pilot for a TV, a proposal for a TV series, and I would, I asked her, I emailed her, could you, would you be able to, would you have enough time? Would you be able to read it for me and give me your feedback? Because, as an artist, again, um, I really wanted her feedback, and I wanted to share it with her. And she said something like she doesn't have time, or if she has time, and I never heard back about that. And there were other times where um, she she gave some sense, like she seemed friendly, but she never stepped forward. She never like did anything for me. I remember another time we were emailing, and she talked about I don't want to give in. She talked about a movie, and I thought maybe we could go together. I think I had seen a photo of her at a movie, attending a movie, and I I said maybe we could go to a movie together, and that never happened. And just as friends, if nothing else. And there were moments like that where I remember I mentioned my mom had had an injury, and she said maybe she will look into charities for my mom. And she said in so many words, you know, comfort, like uplifting things, like she's in so many words she's proud of me. And then this so gradually, I guess it tapered off. There's a Memorial Day parade where I was in the Masons, and um, she waved at me in the crowd, and of course I couldn't wave as much as I wanted to. I couldn't wave back, but I smiled. I probably smiled. I know I internally I smiled, and um, I had to hold the flag, right? So we were on good terms, I guess, even though we weren't talking to each other. We were on good terms. I really value that, especially now. And so in April, 2 years ago, um, I watched that documentary on Chris Chan, and I felt sorry, and I found some connection with myself, and And now you can, I guess, I said this before, but now maybe you can understand um, why, I texted her and said, I'm sorry if I said or did anything. I didn't mean any harm. I didn't mean anything. And so she texts back immediately. I mean, that really surprised me. She texts back, and so we talked. I like to say we talked into the night. It's probably maybe like 2 hours, 2.5 hours, but that really felt like something. She went into detail. She some detail. I mean, she wasn't forthcoming about a lot. I mean, I think she had more that she wasn't telling me that I wish she could tell me. Every time that there's been bad things, bad moments between us, it's when I've been kept in the dark. Um, and so she she gives an impression, at least to me, that we're friends now. And so she she has she has this cute way of cute this admirable way, attractive way of when she's adamant about something, when she truly believes in something, she will speak up and she'll talk about it. And she was sharing it with me. She was sharing me her insights on things about life, and that felt made me feel very, very proud. Isn't the right word? Very there's a word for it. Flattered, very flattered that she would open up, and she again, it's like it's a repeating phrase, like she opened up to me, and she she talked to me like a friend, and not she wasn't above me, she wasn't looking down on me, she wasn't putting me off. She was just genuinely talking and sharing ideas. And then she says, um, somewhere in these conversations, she said, I have remarkable insight, or I have all these ideas that I want to share with the rest of the world. I mean, I should be sharing with the rest of the world. And that was a lot of the inspiration for, well, heck, the majority of the inspiration for creating my other YouTube channel, Visionary Ventures, and this channel. Well, this channel being something else, but you know what I mean. Having a YouTube presence. Um, and she talked about, how do I put this? She talked about a friend of hers that she knew that could benefit, she felt, from like this friend of hers was younger, that, I'd gone through a lot of experiences, and she she thought maybe this friend of hers could benefit from just an older person um, commiserating, or like not, just saying, I've been through it too. And that was very gratifying that she opened up, like, this is real vulnerable on her part, right? Um, that she said maybe the three of us could meet somewhere. And I felt that very glad that she trusted me with this other person. And she had enough respect, not only respect, but she trusted me that I didn't mean any harm. And maybe I could be, helpful. Um, and we shared songs that we thought described us best. And and then she recommended a certain movie, and I watched the movie. It was my first time watching the movie, and it was one of those things that she was adamant about, like, should I say, like, beautifully, attractively adamant about. Um, I'm attracted to smart women, like Samantha Stevens in Bewitched. And I want a girl. I still haven't had a girlfriend. Um, I'm attract. I would want a girlfriend who's smart, who's capable of sharing ideas with me, and she, yes, again, there's some traits in her that I think I'm convinced could be a good match for me. In that, maybe not dating, but in terms of friendship, and we could be better knowing each other and sharing ideas than we would be apart. And it's like the purpose of life is to improve yourself. It's quoting from Star Trek: The Next Generation. Um, Purpose of life is to improve yourself and to make a positive impact upon the world and upon other people. And that's always been my philosophy. And um, so over the next while, she, again, like I said before, I opened up about this part of me. And I would share with her my first photos of me walking in the park. And she said that I should um, go more places than just in the park. Somehow, like, I graduated beyond the park, and she mentioned a local nightclub that's frequented by, I think, largely college students. There's some drag queens there that like that do this as a side hobby. They're professional, sort of professional, so to speak, and that really gave me a boost of confidence that she was not only endorsing what I was doing, she was happy with it, she was okay with it, and she had been with people who do it on a regular basis, like who do it as a career, and it's like it's like in some sense she was saying you don't have anything to worry about. I understand, and I appreciate it, and you're doing really good. And she complimented me on how well I was doing it. Um, and she said she doesn't really give those compliments out, but she said that Samantha was beautiful, and that meant a lot to me. Like, as a guy, I've never had anybody tell me that I was attractive, um, and so um, I I would send her some things, pictures every time I would go out, and I think she texted finally and said in so many words, something that indicated I was doing it too much, and other things are in her life, and it seemed very abrupt, like um, I like, sorry, I didn't know. If you had told me, like maybe told me at what level was okay with you, like even back in high school, maybe if you had been more open to me about, like, explaining what was going on, what the bigger picture was. Like, I for so many years I've wanted to say this to her. um, if you had if you had told me what other things were going on, I would not have done certain things that I did. um, and if you had told me, gee, I'm happy, so forth, but I'm it's too much, too frequently, maybe you're coming on strong or something like that, I would have been okay, and I would have instantly switched back. I would have instantly adjusted, because I didn't want anything, as you can tell, I didn't want anything to affect our friendship, our beginning, burgeoning friendship. And so I respected her, and I just stopped texting her. And so, ironically, this is April, around April. So, ironically, a year later, um, it was Passover. I'm Jewish. It was Passover, so you're not supposed to eat anything leavened. So that immediately cut into no bread, no pizza, no a lot of things, no soda. Um, this guy suddenly, this former classmate, suddenly messages me out of nowhere, and he asks to borrow some money, and okay, and then every day he asks to borrow more money, and eventually it was like I remember it being $1,230, and I don't have that a lot of money, but I figured he really needed it. He explained that, well, I won't go into, he really needed the money, and it's just, and he'll pay me back. But I was getting a little suspicious. Um, but he did, he opened up. I remember one Saturday, Saturday is my time to dress up, and so he took me over to somewhere downtown or somewhere in the city, and he had to borrow money, but he was taking me somewhere, and I would wait in the car, and so forth. So he talked with me about his interests. I won't go into them without reveal, so I don't reveal who it is. He talked just conversationally, and we talked about Star Trek and interests that we both had, and it was nice. And and he accepted me, and I think he said I look very nice, something like that. And then at some point I got so fed up with giving him lending him money that I felt so sick of it that I remember it was like I was at work, and I was in the break room, and I just said I don't I don't think this guy ever intends to give me back the money, and I was financially hurting. Um, and I said his name. I texted, I included his name because I was so sick of being taken advantage of. And that phrase, that thought about being taken advantage of and used, um, reminded me of that feeling that we get from Becky. That, because at the time in high school, even in that time in high school, I questioned whether I was being used. I thought maybe I was a joke. Maybe, see, this is where communication would have been better. Um, I guess I don't sound much feminine that much anymore, although I'm trying. Um, I thought that maybe, even though maybe she's two-faced, maybe she's lying about all this. I thought at the time, like in high school, like that senior year, I thought maybe it's a joke. Like maybe I'm pouring my heart out in these letters and this poetry with these high hopes and sincere, genuine hopes. And maybe she's just laughing with her friends about what an idiot I am. And I don't know. I just felt used, and it just made those feelings come back because I've been used. I don't think he intended to pay me back at all. Um, and so I just blurted her name in the text, and she got really mad. She texted back, and um, she said, "Now it's public," and something like, "Don't ever text me again." And And then um, later on, I was still confused. Like, um, what was I confused about? Like, I was still confused about what had I done? Well, like, what basically between the two of us, it's been like for 30 years. I wondered. I've been trying to piece together. I've gone to a number of therapists for a few reasons, but primarily it was for that. I started off after college. Um, I mean, after high school, the beginning part of college, right? I I reached out to some classmates and people who maybe would know her and could fill me in on what was going on. I mean, I felt like I was left in the dark, um, and they didn't really give me answers. Nobody would really give me answers. They just either didn't know her well, know Becky well, or they didn't want to get involved, or what. There was one person who's no longer with us, and I remember I wanted some kind of. I wrote her a letter, and she knows she knows Becky well. She knew Becky well, and I said all I want, like, is some revelation, like, and I made a biblical metaphor about, like, the secrets of what's to come being locked in a box, and at some point this box will be opened, and you learn all the secrets. And she wrote me a nice letter back. This is somebody who tended to be with a popular crowd, maybe a cheerleader, I don't know. Um, she wrote me a letter back. She took the time to write me a letter back, and I hope I still have the letter. Otherwise, it's in here and in here. And she said, she wrote, I hope you get the revelation that you, and she understood, because a lot of times when I was writing these letters, and I was using metaphors, and that's when I started to get this impression that people, maybe, I guess I was speaking over people's heads, or they didn't want to bother to figure out what I was talking about, or the metaphors, or they couldn't talk in allegory. They couldn't understand. They couldn't take one step back and understand it, understand my point of view. Like, all I was doing, I wanted to be open minded. I was open minded. All I wanted, all those years during college, I wanted to know, beyond what was going on in my mind, what was the outside picture? Like, could you please tell me what was on your mind, or how you reacted, how you interpreted what I was doing? Maybe, like, to kind of piece it all together. Um, and I never got that. Um, Again, I was in the dark, and it caused more problems. It caused more hurt for me. Just the fact that I wasn't um, aware. Even though I tried, I guess in some sense I was denied being aware of um, what had gone on, like what was going on. And so a long time, a close friend of mine from elementary school, and we've kept in touch. Our minds are, I think, very much in tune, and he he suggested that his girlfriend um, had taken psychology, and suggested um, some sort of reason um, that might be going on with Becky, and so he shared it with me, and so without mentioning her name or anything on Facebook, mentioning anything about her at all that would identify her at all. I didn't even mention, I just said someone from my past. And I just texted, all I put on Facebook was something like, um, someone gave me an alternate explanation, possible explanation for why this person reacted, would behave in certain ways. And because, like, for example, behaving like being friendly at one point and then suddenly just like seeming ignoring me or ignoring me, um, it just seemed on off, on off, on off, and it puzzled me greatly and deeply and hurt me. And so I wanted her to be, I hope that she would read it, she would think rightly, correctly, that it referred to her. I wasn't mentioning any names, and that I said, you know, um, just that thought, that possibility. Oh, maybe it wasn't this. Maybe there's this alternative, and I said psychological explanation. And I just, what do I mean by psychological? I didn't mean anything like crazy or psychotic. I just meant maybe there was trauma, or maybe some kind of thing that's in the mind, that maybe she experienced something, or maybe just something was just holding her back, and so forth. So I just typed that, and so she texts back and reply like public, and she said, and she just lambasted me for like several paragraphs, calling my psychotic and my family psychotic, and what hurt, one thing that hurt was, um, my mom. She referred to my mom, whereas in the earlier phone call, that previous year, previous April, um, she said that, my mom had like hidden in the bushes, um, or just stayed near the house. Like when they pulled, she was with a friend, and they pull in and discover my mom there. And I know what was going on behind that. I couldn't. I wanted to make amends during those college years. We weren't going to the same college. I wanted to make amends. I wanted just like very that. I just wanted to ease the ice between like melt, warm the ice between us, and I wanted to be on friendly terms with her. So I I knew she said no more contact. So I sent my mom over to give her a note. And in that April phone call, she said she understood. She argued against the. I mean, she persuaded this kid from calling the cops because she understood. That's very sweet, very nice. They called. She took the letter from my mom, and she said, "Thank you, Mrs." Last name. And she told me in that phone call that because she was very respectful towards my mom. And just now I remember she said that, something I had forgotten, that she used to work in um, a local, like family owned, grocery store. And whenever my mom, and I know my mom would frequent that, that's where she got our groceries. And she would, um, whenever she would see my mom, she would be very respectful, and she would say, um, "Hello, Mrs. So and so," and very touching, very flattering, very nice. She was respectful towards my mom, and so in this text, this Facebook post, it really hit me hard when she characterized my mom as crazy or psychotic for hiding in the bushes and scaring her. And now I don't know what to believe. I'm inclined to believe that it wasn't that way, and she was just mad and really didn't scare her. I don't know. Um, but calling, I didn't mean psychological in the sense that crazy or wacky or whacked out or nuts in the head. I just meant maybe there was trauma that she had in her past, or maybe just some sort of thing, like just some experience that psychologically she was affected by. That's all I meant. And then I was lambasted not only by her, but by an ongoing, like a barrage of other classmates just chiming in, not knowing any context. But and then it was so I really am sincere. I felt like suicide, um, on living again, and she typed, "Well, go ahead, have your pity party." And um, some people did reach out and say and try and cheer me up, or persuade me away, and I guess I'm too smart for to do that. And um, she texted me on not only on Facebook but texted me on text messenger and said, "Don't ever text me again." And I've kept up my I didn't even say promise, but I've kept that up. I've honored her wish. I have, except there was one exception. There were two exceptions. There was one when somebody we knew, a classmate, died. I just texted. I simply texted. I'm just texting you to let you know that this happened. And um, there was another. There was another text I sent, where I I've been talking with this other classmate of ours, and I want to talk about this too. Um, I'll name her Amy. Um, Amy knew her pretty well in school, and um, I opened up. I felt very sad. I felt very distraught, and I texted Amy about Becky, and I felt very distraught, and I confused, and she hates me, and she doesn't want anything, she can't stand, she's disgusted by me, she all these horrible things. Like, I have an imagination, and I can think of all these horrible things that she would think about me. And so Amy said in so many words, "I don't think she hates you. I think that's over, and I think she's just been through trauma." And and then it was unclear whether she thought Becky really had been through trauma or what, but she just was vague. And Amy talked about how girls have stalkers, or how they have to be more on guard than men. And I understand that. And in retrospect, like, coming on too strongly in the poetry and flowery language and so forth, and beautiful and so forth, I could understand how, even at the time in high school, that high school period, that maybe if she had an experience with a stalker, I don't know, but maybe if she had an experience with a stalker before that, maybe that would have led her to be afraid or ambivalent. All it seemed, if I could pick the right word, it seemed ambivalence was the best word to characterize this. She just didn't respond back, even though she appreciated my letters. And I was naive, and I was eager to impress, and I wanted that reciprocal feedback. I was really proud, and so forth. And my eyelash is probably, I don't know. So Amy and I have texted since then, and I have not contacted Becky at all. Um, Even though I still sometimes, like, there was a period I was working at a supermarket, and I was working in the meat department, and this would have been last year. Um, and part of it was cleaning knives and dishes and so forth. And for a while, they would play this '80s music, and from that time, I would have been growing up in childhood, my teens, during the late '80s. And sometimes I would look at the knife and I would think awful things. Um, and sometimes when I'd be driving, I thought of awful things. Um, but I avoided that, and my life is too important, and it's a fleeting moment. And sometimes, thank God, um, Amy was there, and I could just text her, even if she would always respond back. She was very nice. Even if she didn't have to respond back, just the ability to be able to get thoughts off my chest, even if only in texting, was nice and comforting and soothing and healthy. I'm trying to think. Basically healthy, recuperative, and she would say, I think I think Becky has put that aside in so many words. I don't know. I hope so. Um, I think maybe she was just mad that one time, and I can understand why she could misinterpret. She could snap to certain judgments or assume certain things about what I meant, interpret things, and I guess she was just very mad. I just continue thinking about her being very mad at me, and I I thought after a while, I was seeing a series of therapists, and not very much help. And this latest therapist from I guess last year, um, I shared with him like this is where I was going. I tried to show as much as I possibly could, all the text messages and describing. I wanted to know, could you could you explain what was going on beyond myself, even even as a precocious 17-year-old. um, I knew that I knew enough to say, this is my interpretation of what happened. I'm only privy to my own knowledge of what happened. I don't know the rest. I don't know what's in other people's heads. I I need a more objective view. Um, and so, in thinking, in going to the therapist, I thought to myself, um, it does seem. Before that, before going to that therapist, I mean, signing up with that therapist, I reasoned that maybe with Amy's help, maybe um, there were signs of PTSD. I mean, now I haven't been to war or anything, but um, these flashbacks, I would have like triggers, like what I said about the knives, and in the car, just like what if it could end now? It could end. I could do it now. Um, but I didn't do that. But those seem like triggers, and it seems like trauma. And so where do I go from here? Well, you see me dressed up. Um, I don't know if Becky would be watching this. Um, I hope she's not mad at me, and I hope she's really, really impressed by how much I've developed my look as Samantha. See, now I'm getting my feminine voice back. Huh? Um, I guess that's it. There's the high school reunion coming up, the 30th anniversary high school reunion coming up this year, a matter of months, and I'm expecting maybe classmates to come up with me and treat me more warmly, more welcomingly than they had in school. Although, from what I had discovered since graduation, a number of them thought well about me, and wherever I go, like at work, people think highly of me. And as a matter of fact, this latest job I have, which I started in November, and it's unfortunately ending in February, the end of this month, because they're closing down the department. But they were very respectful. They even know about this. And there was one woman who had been out since June, and then she came back, and she heard, the first thing that she heard from them was, "You've got to talk to," and then my male name, and got to talk to this person, and so forth, and very, very admirable about me. And I hope that Becky knows that, and I just hold this in. I keep holding it in, holding this dismay and this frustration. So that's why it's not like I keep dwelling on it, but it's one of those, I guess, traumas, one of those pains that um, hopefully this will serve as a catharsis, and I can let it out. But like I was saying before at the beginning of this video, um, I was at work, and I was doing okay, and then the computer system had a weird bug while I was talking to glitch while I was talking to a customer, and that wasn't so good. And then a guy comes in and puts flowers on his coworker's desk. She was there, and they were talking, and suddenly it's just like I snapped, and I thought about Becky, and just felt sad for the rest of the day. Even into the next morning, I felt sad. Um, is that depression? I don't know. I know one thing that I've been mad or frustrated about. One thing I've held kind of against. I don't want to say I held anything against Becky. One of the things that I do like kind of stand up and hold to Becky is that I would be writing these letters even after the breakup, and I would mention how I hurt inside, a number of times how I've hurt inside, and she never. In fact, that was one thing that I texted. That was that thing that I texted. Um, how I hurt inside, and I was hoping that she would say, "Oh, I'm sorry." Like my mom, whenever I came home or I was hurt about something, my mom and I never had a fight at all. But when she noticed I was hurting, she would say, "Oh, I'm sorry. How can I make it better? How can I make you feel better? Or how can I make it up to you?" And I thought, like, I kind of needed this, or I deserved it with Becky. Like, she did hurt me in certain ways, and it's like she ignored all those letters where I was saying like I was thinking about unending myself, and I feel miserable. I feel like a zombie. I don't know if she even read the letters. I don't know if maybe she threw them out the moment she got them. I don't know. So anyway, so this has been a long video. I hope maybe I won't have to ever again talk about this, for Becky's sake and for mine, I guess. And I'll have some things to write about in terms of songs and music. So I guess until next time, so long.